Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Ranking the Albums alongside my co-host today, Mr. Jamie Lazslo. What's up, Jamie?
What is going on, Pete?
Oh, listening to a lot of Rise Above Records artists of late.
Seems to be the weekend's theme.
That's right. It's Rise Above weekend, right? So yesterday on All About the Fuzz, we talked about some very cool Rise Above artists, and we decided not to talk about this band on that episode because we are doing a whole show on Blood Ceremony from Toronto, Canada, I believe, or somewhere up there in Canada, right? So
yeah, in Pop-Off Land, somewhere
yes,
up Pop-Off Land.
Very cool band. They've been on Rise Above since the beginning, I believe, right? Yes, I believe.
I think from the beginning.
Yeah, from the beginning. They've also got the muscle of Metal Blade behind them for distribution, which is always a good thing. Current lineup of the band: Aaliyah O'Brien, the focal point of the band. She's their singer. She plays flute. She plays organ. She's terrific. Sean Kennedy on guitars, Lucas Gatke on bass and backing vocals, and Michael Carrillo on drums. Other folks in the band: Chris Landon used to play bass for them, Jeremy Finkelstein on drums, and Andrew House on drums as well. But the other four are there. It's the current lineup of the band. We got 5 albums. They just came out with a brand new one, right? So Jamie and I kind of waited a little bit on this till we had enough time to digest the new album and see how that fits into the ranking. So I know Jamie wants to talk about a little something before we get started, but Jamie will also number 5.
I wanted to bring something up, Pete, because you know what? I've been doing the math recently, and sometimes I'm amazed. You just did last weekend a Windhand ranking show, right? I saw the views, 1,600 people. Okay, 1,600, that's cool. But you know what? I look at your subscribers. You have 86,000 people who went out of their way to subscribe. You're getting 1,600 views on a video. I did the math. That's 2% of your subscribers watch that video. I assume we're going to get at the most 1,700 for this video, which will be 2%, which will make us shitty milk. Or I also did a little research here, Pete, and I did percentage of other things to put it all in perspective, okay? Rarest color of eyes is green. 9% of Americans have green eyes. 7.4% of the population has experienced homelessness, okay? So we're not even on that level. 5.1% of all Americans have been to jail. So a lot more of your subscribers have been to jail than they're watching this video right now. 5%. Have you ever seen a dog with blue eyes? Not very often. 5%, Pete. 5% of dogs have blue eyes. 4.7% of Americans live to be 90. Sometimes with the views we get on these videos, I wonder if it's like 86% of your subscribers are past 90. God bless you all. We love you. Up to 2% of Americans have crabs. So... And then 2% of kids can't touch a peanut. And finally, to put it in perspective in a very big way, all this music that you see here and there and underneath the computer that you can't see and here, 2% of all this is Pat Benatar related. So if this is all your viewerships and all your subscribers, I should say, this is the people watching. And that's it. So come on. I know you said that you cannot pick the thumbnail of us talking. YouTube will give you like 3 options. If it's normally us like in the middle of a word looking like a moron. But if you could have picked one, and maybe if there's a God or a devil, maybe YouTube will freeze us with me holding this. You people out there, let me hold it for a little bit longer to give YouTube a chance. Let me keep them still so they're not blurry. Listen to new bands. It's okay. And watch this damn video. So that's out of the way. Whew.
Well, I mean, you bring up some great points, and it continues to mystify me because I tell you, I've been doing the ranking the album shows on the channel for a long time, and it arguably one of the things that started to get us really watched to a much wider audience was the ranking the album shows. And when I like really slowed down on them like last year, because I only just brought them back to like a weekly thing like a year ago, so many people are like, I really wish you would do more ranking the album shows. You need to make them a regular part of the week and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I'll make them a weekly thing on Sunday. But I've like all the big bands that we talk about on the channel, I've already done those, right?
Yeah, you can't do Zeppelin again.
No, I'm not going to, right? It's just ridiculous. And some people are like, oh, but you should do them again because maybe your opinions have changed on some of the albums, or maybe one of those older bands released a new album. And I'm like, there's so many other bands to do that aren't like the mega bands. And it's like, and I noticed, like, granted, like we did I did the Blondie ranking 2 months ago or something like that. They got like 12,000 views, right? And this is a band that's not really in the real norm in the wheelhouse of what we do here, right? But we've been doing all these great, like more underground, lesser known metal, prog bands, all this kind of stuff, and they barely get 2,000 views. We have almost 1 million views a month, every single month on this channel. Never mind the 86,000, whatever it is, subscribers. I sometimes wonder, it's like people only want to watch a show like this if it's a band they know, because they want to see if they agree with the way we rank the albums. And that's really the only plus to doing something like this. But it's like to listen to me and someone else rank a catalog of a band they don't know, they're not interested. And I don't understand.
But you know what else is fun? Having another YouTube browser open and pausing this and listening to it and sampling it and seeing if it's something that will get you going. New music, get your blood going. That's just as fun as knowing what we're talking about.
Yeah. And for those who are watching right now and get it,
God bless you.
God bless you, because but I know there's going to be some people that are like, well, it's like I never heard, I don't listen to much new music, and it's obvious because I know, like, the weekly reviews that I do every Wednesday. I mean, it kills me that, like, I still get
700 views,
500 views, 800 views. I mean, if not even 1,000 people will watch I mean, it's like, if you like heavy music, if you like prog, why must it always be about the same bands all the time? Open up your horizons a little bit. This is more, and I totally get and appreciate Jamie bringing this up, because it bothers me as well. It's like, these bands are the ones that are really struggling to get your attention, that want to get their music exposed. And that's why we do this channel. We don't do this channel to talk about Black Sabbath and Judas Priest and Yes over and over again. That's not what we do here. We talk about them, obviously, because we love them and so many people love them. But the reason why I started up Sea of Tranquility, and the reason why the original magazine, the original webzine was created, was to promote new music by new bands and new music by bands we know. That's what it's all about. And it does frustrate a lot of us here on the channel who create this content, that we just have a lot of people who are just unwilling to listen to anything new. It's frustrating. But you know what? I'm going to continue to do this regardless, because a band like Blood Ceremony deserves to be talked about. Yes. So, for those, every now and then, Jamie, I get people who are like, I wish you would bring back the Ranking the Album show more often. I'm like, it's on every Sunday. It's on every Sunday. Watch it. It's like you're choosing not to watch it because I'm not familiar with that band. Well, get familiar with them. Maybe it could be your next favorite band. Is there anything bad with potentially having a new favorite band? I would think anybody would be fantastically excited about the prospects of finding a new band that does everything for them. You like Jethro Tull? You like Deep Purple? You like Uriah Heep? You like Black Sabbath? This band has elements of all of those. All of those. So anyway.
Well, the sad thing is we're preaching to the choir, because if you're watching this, you're like, well, I'm here. And everybody who's not watching it ain't hearing us.
Right. Exactly. So all that being said, everybody's probably, well, when are they going to get on with the ranking? Jamie, what's your number 5?
I'm going with the first album, Blood Ceremony. And I have it on, I found this blood splattered vinyl on the cheap years ago. Now it's worth a pretty penny. They have no bad albums. We always say that. They have no bad albums. And if you want to start with this, fine. it's a great place to start. But for me, it's a little rough around the edges. You know, they're finding their feet to me. The songwriting's a little, but Master of Confusion, you know, opens up with doomy track, all sorts of cool organ with Aaliyah O'Brien. This is the cool thing about this band. I think Sean Kennedy is the brains behind this band, the guitarist. He writes most of the music, the guitarist. He's wise enough to put Aaliyah out in front and, you know, let her play the organ, the flute, and be the face of the band because it fucking works.
Yeah.
I'm Coming With You, cool, dark, but again, song-wise, the problem I have with this album is I look at a lot of the songs when I'm done listening to it and I go, I forget how a lot of these go right after I'm done listening to it. But In the Coven is kind of memorable with the lines. I love this little passage. The season of a witch is autumn long. Weird silence falls upon the throng. They smoke black drugs from Saturn's bong and blast our minds with evil songs. And then later they sing in the perfume black mass with reptile gongs. I don't know what a reptile gong is, but fuck, I think I want one. I got a place right down there. I'll put it there. If it's not too big, can I get a smaller reptile gong?
A little replica of it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little replica. Still made out of metal, maybe a little thing to knock it. Yeah, but some of the songs, you know, plod along just a little bit, but they always have that jam session that just explodes. It comes out of nowhere and the flute's going, the guitar's going, and it just opens up the song. And I love how on the, you know, a lot of these albums, you know, from the history of rock and roll have thanks to, you know, they'll name whoever, people who helped out. Here they go, highest praise, : Jethro Tull, Black Sabbath, Black Widow, Coven, Electric Wizard, Witchfinder General, Pentagram, Iron Butterfly, Black Sabbath, and Hammer Studios, and some others. So if you like any of that there,
yep,
people who aren't listening to me right now, try this damn band out. You'll like it.
Yep. It's a great statement. Yeah. And I will agree, this band does not have a bad album. I like all these albums quite a bit. This was kind of tough. It's always tough for me when you do a ranking after a band releases a brand new album. And like I said, we waited a little bit to let it sink in. And I feel like almost like by default, I have to put The Old Ways Remain from 2023, the fifth and most recent, as my number 5. I really like it a lot. I think I'm still learning it and still living with it. So I figured this is a good place for it. There's some great stuff on here. It's probably their most different album. The Hellfire Club starts it off in a really good way. Lots of hooks. There's a really cool, like late 60s psychedelic pop vibe on this song and throughout this whole album, which I think is kind of neat. It's very different from the album that Jamie just talked about. Like they're night and day, really. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think the riffs on this album aren't as heavy, but Aaliyah's vocals are awesome. And I think she's become even a better singer. The vibe I get on this album, Jamie, is a little bit like the two most recent Lucifer albums. I think both bands are kind of going in a similar direction. This whole kind of like late 60s garage rock, psychedelic pop, occult type of thing. They're doing it really, really well. There's great chorus, plenty of great organ to go alongside the riffs. I think it's really, really terrific. You got the great jazzy flute solo. Really good song. The Hellfire Club is an excellent, excellent song.
Ipsissimus.
That's real, again, very different. The first time I heard that, I was like, oh my God, this is Blood Ceremony. It's playful, it's fun, it's kind of got this like kind of 60s like pop thing going on, which I think is really, really cool. The chorus is really memorable. Eugenie, bluesy, flutes all over the place. Lolly is another one. Lolly Willows is another one. You know, it's kind of folky, kind of poppy. Her vocals are really quirky and fun. You know, Powers of Darkness, it's got more of those great hooks. And again, I hear 60s all over this particular album. Widdershins, really memorable. love the big organ and guitar riffery going on there together. Hecate is a more kind of breezy pop type style stuff. Mossy Wood is total Jethro Tull sounding to me. Lovely violin. There's a violin on here too, which is cool. There's a lot of cool folk things, like kind of pagan folk stuff going on here. I think it's a really cool album. I think it's really different. They go off in all sorts of varied directions, which we would never expect from them. I like the kind of extra pop and folk things going on here. There's a big psychedelic vibe throughout this whole album. But yeah, like I said, I think this just lands at number 5 kind of by default, but there's really not much doom on here, but it's just good heavy rock mixed with all the other things I talked about. And I'm really anxious to hear where they go from here, because I think this potentially could be a big turning point album for them. And Will, Karen and I just talked about it quite a bit on the Fuzz show yesterday, not necessarily about Blood Ceremony, but Rise Above obviously doesn't have all the money and promotional strength of some of the major metal labels out there, and you just have to wonder if this band potentially is kind of like a Lucifer, that they're kind of ready for the next level. I'd love them to stay on Rise Above, but will we see them on a Century Meteor or a Nuclear Blast somewhere down the road or somewhere else? I don't know, because this is a band that I think a lot of people who maybe don't listen to metal would really get into. So
right,
that's my number 5.
It's my number 4.
Okay.
And you know what? I was at a record store when this came out, and I didn't know they had a new record out. I was just flipping through their hard rock section where they keep all their Ripple music and Rise Above and everything, old proto metals in there. It's a great little section. And I saw this, I was like, get the hell out. I thought maybe they broke up. It's been so long. So I grabbed it and ran home and I put it on. And I was like, ooh, it's a little bit more laid back, ain't it?
Yeah.
But I mean, like you said, Hellfire Club, it's kind of rocking. Ipsissimus, I did some research on some of these words. Ipsissimus, which is a great song, Latin for self in the highest mode of attainment. In the context of magicians, it's the highest ranking of trying to comprehend something. So I think you have to have ipsissimus to understand what the word ipsissimus really is, because they say it's a very complex word that's hard to put into the English language to describe. Eugenie, what that has all over it is saxophone. Awesome, great sax. And I kind of feel like Rivers of Nile, with their album Where Owls Know My Name, they have sax in their extreme music and hard rock. And I think that kind of opened the door for other bands to go,
we can do that.
Sax into our music too. Sax is cool again, thanks to Rivers of Nile. Powers of Darkness, great hook. The Bonfires of Bellicum, that has the old school kind of Blood Ceremony guitar riff in it. It could fit on one of their earlier albums, as with Wintershins. Hecate, the goddess of magic, witchcraft, the night, moon, ghost, and necromancy. I told you I Googled some of this shit. But it's their least doomy song. Like you said, it sounds like Coven. It reminds me a little bit of One Tin Soldier. Mossy Wood, folky vibe, like you said, very Jethro Tull. If you like Jethro Tull, this is your band.
Yeah.
And, Song of Morrow is really good. This is one of my favorite albums of 2023, and I bought so far about 36 or 37, Pete. So it's not bad. It's very good. And who knows, 5 years from now, it could be much higher.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of why I prefaced, like, today I'm putting in a number 5, but we haven't had it all that long. So it's an album that just grows on you. There's great melodies on here, and the songs are fun and quirky and catchy. And I will say, she's a damn good flute player.
Yes. And on this kind of album, where it's a little bit laid back a little bit, you have to rely on her vocals more.
Yes. And she's
stepping up to the plate.
Yeah. She knocks it out of the park vocally on this album. I think she's really coming to her own as a singer. I think it's really good stuff. All right, I'm going to go for number 4. I'm going to go with Lord of Misrule from 2016, their 4th album. I always kind of like the cover, right? Cool little fuzzy picture of the band. The Devil's Widow kicks it off, man, completely crushes. I mean, it has everything that's so cool about this band. You got the big heavy riffing, you got those haunting vocals, the wispy flute. It's like kind of like the perfect blend of doom and psychedelia, which I think really is what this band is all about. I mean, that's what they do. But now, with the new album, there's more kind of folk stuff going on. Lorelei, quite playful. Love the hooks. Got lots of Mellotron. Sal, if you're watching, Mellotron all over the place on this one.
Not the Styx cover though.
Exactly. Yeah. The Rogues Lot, another good one. It's just kind of psychedelic and groovy and doomy. Love the 70s rock of the title track, which I think is loads of fun. It's just really cool, crisp guitar riffs and whatnot. I think it's really great flute solo and a lot of organ on that one. You got Half Moon Street. That reminds me of Coven. A lot of their stuff, like on the last couple albums, reminds me of Coven. And I think that her vocals are really nicely put in the mix, and the flutes right there alongside it, really, really good. The Weird of Finisterre, or however you say that. Again, kind of haunting folk. Really like that. Flower Phantoms. I was going to say Phantom Flowers. Flower Phantoms. Also really cool. That song reminds me of kind of where they go on the new album. Again, it's got that kind of like weird folky pop vibe thing going on. And then you get Old Fires, which is typical Blood Ceremony, big, heavy, crushing, heavy rock and whatnot. Got a lot of organ, a lot of guitar. And then the last thing is Things Present, Things Past. That's kind of dreamy, kind of creepy, just haunting stuff, and just again, very unique sound, this band, even though they bring influences that come from all over the place. Again, really varied album. At the time when this came out, I was kind of thinking, all right, that's a bit different. And I think they went even further on the new album. But I think that the most recent albums, the last two, are you can kind of separate this catalog, the first three and the last two. And I think that their kind of evolution into what they're going to become is now fully in effect here. So, but really good stuff, really good album. Listen to
All
this.
right, cool. Man, it's so good to talk about music with people. I just don't do that anymore in my life. My wife only listened to me like after 3 glasses of wine when I want to talk about some music that she's not 100% down with. What did you want to say? I got my 3rd glass in me. Go ahead. I'm going to go number 3. Going into this exercise, I was certain this was my number 1. Things have changed. At the Thursday, my whole list changed. It's very, so don't take my number 5 as being sucky and number 1 being the best, because these are all good. Always changing. I'm going to go with The Eldritch Dark, which I thought was going to be my number 1. I was so certain, because right when I played it, I heard down, 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 down. I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be my number 1 for certain. Because you know me, I don't need all I need is that's all I need, and I'm down. But that's the opening to Witchwood. Like you said, everything that makes this band great is in that song. One of my favorite songs by the band, and I love the little Easter egg in it. The last lyric before it just explodes into this jam session, she screams, "The old ways remain," and it's just badass, right? And yeah, and revisiting it, when she said it, I was like, oh, okay.
Well, cool. Yes, indeed. There you go.
All right. Goodbye, Gemini. That's what she does in the video. One of those songs, right when I see the name of the song, I go, you can't help but sing the name of the song, instantly. Lord Summer Owl from The Wicker Man.
Yep.
Things slow down with that song, and you get to hear the bass player, Lucas Gatke, do a little vocals on that. So it mixes things up with the male vocals. They should do that more often, maybe.
Yeah, they really don't. Yeah.
Is he still in the band? I assume so. I'm not sure.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Okay, cool. Ballad of the Weird Sisters. That's a song witches listen to when they're just chilling. When they're having a couple drinks and just they put away the black magic. Things aren't so serious, and they just want, But I think it's the song with the only flute breakdown that makes me go like this right when the flute comes in. It's the only devil horns moment I could think of in music history with a flute. The Eldritch Dark and Drawing Down on the Moon is your doomy, more doomy songs. Faunus, god of the forest in ancient Rome religion, little cool instrumental. And then the Magician is badass Black Sabbath riffs, and Phantom of the Opera, not the song by Iron Maiden, but like Phantom of the Opera, if he was in the band playing the organ. And then it ends with like, if Zombies played shoegaze music, it might sound like the second half of this song. And it's got great lyrics in the middle there. You'll find your will is leaving. Your life is now quite mine. Tonight, my dear, you'll be the devil's bride, crimson altar, concubine. You know, just cool shit like that. Now, why isn't it your number one, Lazlo? Because when I was listening to it, I love those first four songs so much. Maybe if the songs were in a different order, it would have stayed at one, but it comes off as just a tad top heavy. I'm splitting hairs here, Pete.
Oh, yeah.
You got to split hairs with these albums. So it comes off just a little top heavy. So I put it down to 3.
3 is still high, though, you know?
I mean,
it is.
They're all tied for, they're 1A, 1B. That's how I should have ranked them.
Basically, yeah, I agree with it. It's my number 3 as well. Really, really strong album. Like you said, Witchwood is terrific. I mean, yes. One of their best songs.
The Red Vine.
It's just heavy rock, occult heavy rock, big riffs, sizzling organ, great lead guitars, flute, those alluring vocals. I think when I listen to Witchwood, I think it's like Tull meets Sabbath meets Coven meets Deep Purple.
Yeah.
That's thrown all in a blender. Boom. There you have this band.
People are missing out, man.
I'm telling you. Hopefully we are doing a good sales job on this one.
Just in case, freeze YouTube. Give them another chance, Pete.
I mean, I agree with that. I think Goodbye Gemini is terrific. I love Lord Summerisle, and I'm a massive fan of the Wicker Man film, the original, not the remake. And I have to agree with you. The use of the male and female vocals is very well done. It's too bad they don't do that a little more often. I mean, she's wonderful, don't get me wrong, but it'd be cool, like 1 or 2 songs on an album to hear him throw a little stuff there. Ballad of the Weird Sisters, folky, doomy, the great flute solo, and also I think what sounds like a violin solo on that song. I didn't bother looking at the credits to see if there is any, but very, very cool. Drawing Down the Moon. Sounds like Heap a little bit. You're right, Heap. Heavy organ. Faunus is great. Sounds like a Long Lost Jethro Tull instrumental. The Magician, just terrific. Yeah, this is a really cool album with a really, you talk about like a cult rock. I mean, everything about this album is just kind of steeped in all that. So yeah, really good. Could have been higher, but it's my number 3.
Well, Lord of Misrule is my number 2. This is their AOR album, I think. Now, does it sound like Foreigner? Fuck no. It doesn't sound anything like Foreigner. But in the realm of their discography, I think it's their most straight ahead rock album. And it goes down the most easy. It's the most fun. And because of that, it might be the one you grab most often because you're more often in the mood just for straight ahead rock and roll. And you're like, I don't feel like jamming out on these 8-minute songs here so much. You might grab this, but it's fun. And that's why it's my number 2. Devil's Widow, all their strongest suits in one song. Everything that makes them great is in that song. Lorelei or Lorelei, however you want to say it. When Aaliyah's vocals come in, you just want to start kind of bouncing around the room. I think it's one of their most hook-filled songs. And if you listen to it again, Pete, and think of the song Happy Together by the Turtles. It kind of reminds me of that, but it's got vocals of, and we'll sleep in the deep of the curious sea. See, I'm singing her like her, and let them drown your soul in waves. So it's kind of like Happy Together, but more like Dead Together. You'll get some doomy goodness in the Rogue's Lot. Lord of Misrule is a doom song you can dance to. And the line, it's 4 o'clock and getting onto dark. It's a feast of fools in the back of beyond. It's kind of a hook and an earworm. And then Half Moon Street continues the dance party. Now, this ain't a dance party for fucking 17, 18, 19-year-olds. This is a dance party for people like you and me, Pete.
Yeah.
Where we're alone and no one's around and we're kind of like dancing to doom music. You can't dance to doom music. Yes, you can.
Sure can.
Yes. The Weird of Finisterre slows things down, but Flower Phantoms comes on, and it's the kind of song that makes you want to be in a room with two things: belly dancers and lava lamps. And you just want to sit there. Exactly. And just get like in a recliner and just go, yeah. Old Fires, that guitar lick comes in. And I remember thinking, shit, is this a Montrose song?
Yeah, I know, right?
What the hell? Where'd that come from? It rocks. And Things Present, Things Past kind of slows things down. It's almost like the end credits of the album. But I would say their most fun album. If you want to start somewhere and you like more like straight ahead rock, start there and then pick a direction.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. That's probably their most accessible. Like for someone who's maybe not a hardcore doom person, but just wants to hear some cool, like kind of like maybe late 60s, 70s inspired rock music. And that's a fun album. It totally
As a whole, I would say Black Sabbath. If you like Sabbath, that's probably more doom than this band. So don't think when we say less doom that all the other shit must be really. It's not. It's not.
Yeah. My number 2 is going to be the debut from 2008.
I knew it'd be high for you.
Yeah.
Raw, heavy shit, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously I've been following this band from the beginning, and I was like, oh, I remember how much I loved this when this first came out. I mean, Master of Confusion. It's so heavy. I mean, you got the creepy organ, and then all of a sudden these big doom riffs kicks in. It sounds like it's kind of terrifying sounding, right? It sounds like it could have come from 1969. Awesome stuff. I mean, her enchanting vocals floating over those big crushing riffs. Awesome song. I'm Coming With You. A lot of flute on this album, right? I remember I was so taken by this band because I'm like, holy cow, they have some elements to their music that basically borrows from a couple bands that I love so much, right? Sabbath for the big crushing riffs, Jethro Tull with the flute, and the heavy Hammond organ like Deep Purple, Uriah Heep. I'm like, what's not to love? And then her vocals are just like the icing on the cake. Into the Coven is great. It's kind of bluesy, dark. It's got a really cool flute break in the middle. I mean, Return to Forever is a terrific song. Hop Toad is kind of bluesy, lots of flute on that one. Children of the Future is real menacing sounding. I don't know. I agree with. I think this is a little raw, and it is the band still not fully kind of figuring out what they're doing. But I don't know, man. It's just Hymn to Pan is another good one. I really like this album a lot. It's early Blood Ceremony. They have more to offer later on, but if you just want some really, really heavy occult style music with loads of flute, Hammond organ, and huge guitar riffs, and a really cool female singer, this is not a bad place to start. It's not their most accessible album, though. A lot of long songs and things like that, but still really, really cool. So interestingly enough, we have the same number 1. I did not expect that.
I didn't. Well, it was number 4 going into this exercise, but I'll get to that in a minute. You know how I found out about this band? You'd be shocked. 10 years ago, I went online, and I think it was like December, where everyone has their best albums of the year. So 2013, I went on I clicked on a thing from Rolling Stone magazine, of all places. Wow. Best metal albums of 2013. And this is in December of 2013. And they had this listed, the Eldritch Dark. And I was like, and I sampled it and I bought it right away. I can't believe this is 10 years ago.
Wow.
And they had Earthless. From the Ages listed, and I sampled it and I bought it right away. So I bought these at the same exact.
I'm amazed that Rolling Stones mentioned either of those.
Yes. And they also had Windhand Soma at number 2. Wow. So it was like someone knew their shit who put that list together. So anyways, so here's the thing. Living with the Ancients, I had it number 4. I was still saying, oh, they're still a little rough around the edges. The songwriting's a little rough. the songwriting's not a little rough. What these songs are growers, and more times than not, it's those albums with the growers that once they do grow on you, it's hard to get off. Pete, I have a tarp over my pool outside, and it's waterproof, so the chlorine water can't get on top. So when it rains, it sits up there, and I got moss on the top of the damn tarp now, or algae. It grows on there, and once it grows on there, it's hard to get off.
Yeah,
it's just like these songs. Once it grows on you, you can't scrub them off. And it all clicked for me Thursday listening to this album as I was working. I had a religious experience with this fucking album, Pete. Now it's one of those moments now. Look, that when I think of this band, my head's going to go right back to that Thursday when I was listening to this album. It's so strange when it happens sometimes. About 3 years ago, I was listening to Led Zeppelin 2. How many times have we heard Led Zeppelin 2?
Tons, yeah.
It's fuck a bazillion. But the stars aligned. I was sitting at my bar on a Saturday, having a few beers, and I put that on, and it never sounded better ever. Now it took 45 years to get there, but every time I think of Zeppelin now, I think of that moment 3 years ago. Yep. Zeppelin finally got their moment in my head 45 years later, I guess. So it's strange how that happens. The great god Pan, and she plays like Pan, how you would imagine Pan would play, sometimes playful on the flute. It starts off as a doomy track, but then it just turns into something so much more. The organ and guitar jam session. The last 3 minutes, you can just shut your eyes and get lost in that song. Coventry. Here's my first initial notes, Pete, like from a week and a half ago. It's dark and heavy, but the songwriting skills are still a little rough. No. Like I said, it's just a grower. The Hermit's a great little instrumental. My Demon Brother is fucking badass, kicks ass. Morning of the Magicians, dark and heavy, and the interesting guitar tones and keyboard tones. Oliver Haddo, 1972 Spanish horror film. You know what? It's so overdone, but it still works for me every time when these bands open their songs with like some obscure horror movie, like the actual audio from the movie. And then you know what I start doing? I start Googling, what movie is it? This is a 1972 Spanish horror movie, Horror Rises from the Tomb, starring Paul Naschy. Have you seen that movie?
Horror Rises from the Tomb. I don't believe I've seen a lot of Paul Naschy movies, but I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah, so that opens the it's 8 minutes and it's just pure, it's immense. And this is another thing I was thinking when I was listening to this song. It hit me. They don't have a bad song, let alone fucking album. They don't have a bad song.
Yeah.
Night of Augury, spinning organ within the guitars and swirling guitars. It's just, this is when I text you, Pete, on Thursday. And I said, holy fuck, my number 4 just turned into my number 1. I'm having a religious experience. It was during this fucking song. The Witch's Dance, 30 seconds long, but you know, she's playing in that Pan kind of playful manner, and it goes into Daughters of the Sun. You know, they're able to keep it slower and have that creepy tone, but still have a hook and rock out. It's kind of like Martin Barr and Ian Anderson playing if they were possessed by the devil, and then they started playing. And it's big and it's epic, and thank God there's no bonus song on it. It ends with that song.
None needed.
You know, they don't do what witchcraft does and gives you that bonus song to take the momentum away of that big at the end. So yeah, my number 1, 4-1, just a few days ago.
Yeah, I like I said, when I sat down to start re-listening and doing this, I really had no idea how I was going to rank these. None. And this one, after moving things around a couple times, this one just made it to number 1 because I think that start to finish, it's just got the strongest songs, and they impact me the most. And I think everything I love about this band, all those elements are front and center on this album. You know, I can only talk about it so many times, but man, I love Sabbath, I love Deep Purple, I love Heap, and I love Jethro Tull, and I really dig Coven. And this band does all that stuff. They throw it in a blender, and boom, we are Blood Ceremony. And so many good songs on here. I mean, The Great God Pan is terrific. The Witch's Dance is, I love that kind of when they do these like short little whimsical things, these kind of folky things, because they bridge the gap between all these big doomy songs. Daughter of the Sun, which is just so good. Coventry just crushes. I mean, I don't know what more I can say that you haven't already said. This is a terrific, terrific album. And again, I remember when this came out. This, if I remember correctly, this was 2011. I remember, I'd have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure this was fairly high up on my year-end best of the year list in 2011. When, in fact, I think most of their albums generally kind of figure in pretty high. But I remember being all about this because I love the debut, and I was like, "Wow, I think this is even better than the debut," and it actually is. Have they ever topped this? I don't think so, but could they? I wouldn't put it against them. But their more recent albums are very different than this. And that's what kind of makes their catalog so cool, because you have like, you can see the evolution of the band as you got to go through album to album. But yeah, this is immense stuff.
Yeah. And you know what, Pete, what's funny is after Thursday, I said I should listen to it one more time before the ranking just to see if it's still as, no, you know what? I'm just going to let Sleeping Dog, I'm going to let that moment just simmer in my brain. I'm not going to ruin it because maybe I'm not going to be in quite the same mood, and I don't want to disturb the feeling I have in me.
Yeah, because sometimes I've learned over the years, Jamie, that of doing so many of these, it's like you can't agonize it. So like usually I will give myself at least 2 times to kind of rejig things. But if I do more than that, then it's just like I'll be right up to the taping moment, and I'll be like, I think I need to make another switch. At some point, you have to just be satisfied with the way you do it. And like,
this is the moment now. This is our ranking in this moment now. Yeah. Nothing's etched in stone ever.
No. And I think that's why so many people ask. It's like, well, you ranked that catalog 3 years ago. Why don't you do it again and see if you'll rank it any differently?
But you already talked about, it might be a different ranking, but you'll say the same things about the album.
Right. 100%. That's the key. It's like, what, I don't know what more I could say other than like, oh, well, now I kind of like this album a little bit more because this song is doing it for me now. But you've already heard like the analysis, because these ranking shows are as much like a history of the band and an in-depth discussion of and review of all the albums too, at the same token. So,
and hey, you want to listen to Pete talk about Physical Graffiti yet again? Aren't you doing the top 30?
Oh yeah, that's coming.
Hard rock. It's right around the fucking corner. All right, don't worry about it.
That is very true. Yeah, that's coming. That's coming. I will be talking about Physical Graffiti once again. And some other albums that I've talked about quite a bit. But that's why for me, those type of the Daily Show things are fun, because you're constantly reminiscing about stuff we love. But I think, to me, the joy of doing these ranking shows is to really go in depth and talk about some of these catalogs by bands that people may not be all that aware of, but that probably, if they listened to everything else we talked about on the channel, they probably would really like if they gave it some time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so for everybody watching, for those of you who are still with us here, obviously you are, because A, you're either already a fan of this band, or B, you really want to know more about this band and you want to explore the band. So if you already like this band and know their albums, rank them down in the comments section as you like them. If you've never listened to them before, but you're really intrigued by what we've been talking about, go listen to some of these and then come back and let us know what you thought, right? Which albums you checked out, which ones resonated with you. That's the important thing. And
your boy Jack just found out about them.
That's right. Jack Toledano, him and Ove were doing a ranking on That's All Not According to Jack. And Jack is new to the band, right? And I knew Jack would like these guys, because Jack loves all these bands that we've talked about today. So yeah, that's why I think anybody out there who loves vintage Jethro Tull and loves Black Sabbath and loves the heavy organ bands like Heap and Purple would really dig these guys. And if you love female vocals, I mean, she's absolutely terrific. And there's a really kind of, like we've said again ad nauseum, the early stuff is quite doomy, but not overly so. And the more recent stuff has a lot of other things going on, if you like folk and 60s pop and psychedelia and things like that. So yeah, really cool band. So And I want to thank Jamie. Jamie reached out to me a while ago because we always have a couple of ranking shows in the queue together, and we have one that's coming up fairly soon, which we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, there you go. Jamie was like, "Well, now's the new Monster Magnet is. I mean, the new Blood Ceremony's out. You ready to do a ranking?" I'm like, "Yes, I think so." So that this came pretty quickly, but. Let's talk about that little poster you got there. So probably sometime in August, which is not that far away, Jamie and I will be ranking the catalog of the great stoner space rock band, psychedelic band Monster Magnet, which I will thank him for getting me back into this band, because I listened to them a little bit back in the day, and then just you can't keep up with every band, and I decided, all right, let's dive head first, because they are a pretty major band in that style of music. So I don't know if you have any things you want to say about Monster Magnet before we go to whet people's appetite.
I mean, I'll save it all for the ranking show, but I will say that poster is from 23 years ago when I saw him with Buck Cherry, and even Buck Cherry kicked ass at that show.
Really,
they both just rocked that little joint, man. It was awesome.
Good to see, right? Yeah, I've never seen Monster Magnet.
Oh, I've seen them so much. It's like going to a strip club. They got strippers on the side of both stage corners. They don't take their clothes off, but they're up there. You get the belly dancers and the lava lamps almost.
So it's like groovy, heavy fun, right?
Yes.
Yeah. There's definitely something pretty unique about them that I think that's always set them apart, and that's the reason why they've endured for so long. And again, another band that if you go through their catalog, they've got these like little eras, right? You can see their music kind of morphing and changing, but I think the essence of what they do is always there. So that's something to look forward to in August from us, ranking the albums of Monster Magnet. But for now, it's all about Blood Ceremony. So go check these albums out if you haven't. If you know them, rank them down below, and visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube all together all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell so you get alerted of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Also down below, we got the links to our Ko-Fi page for channel donations, as well as our merch page. So thanks in advance for all your support there. And you'll see Jamie and I together alongside the rest of the crew of Curse of the Collector coming up next weekend. Till then, for Jamie Lazslo, I am Pete Pardo. Have a good rest of the weekend, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.